DARIA. Welcome to the latest and most detailed sewn video tutorial on the Rose Cafe Bustier dress pattern. It's been a while since I shared my first tutorial. The pattern has been updated a lot in them. It has different cup sizes now, and moreover, the option to insert underwires and an underwire chart, all to help you achieve the perfect fit. Plus, I want to share an alternative method of sewing the cups in that takes a little bit more of accuracy but will give you an even neater and more polished result. This particular design is a lightweight dress that doesn't include boning. However, if you wish to create a bustier top or a dress with boning, underwires and handmade foam cups, or even create a transparent corset, you can use the same pattern and follow along with my other tutorials on this channel. I would be more than happy if you would elevate your sewing skills with this and create something truly feminine and sexy. You will need the following materials to sew the Rose Cafe Bustier dress. The main fabric. Medium weight, non-stretch, woven fabrics are recommended. I have cotton boucle fabric. For lining, any lightweight fabrics are suitable. I have a lightweight cotton fabric as I want my dress to be full cotton and breathable. Interfacing to stabilize the main pieces of the bodice. It should be soft, flexible, and matching to your fabric. I'm using this kind of fusible interfacing. It's not stiff and quite lightweight because I don't want my cotton dress to be heavy. But for other fabrics, especially for the lighter ones, I highly recommend a tailoring interfacing. As well as I need this kind of interfacing to cut strips out of it that could serve me as a stay for edges. Ribbon for straps also can be sewn from any fabric. And other small notions as hidden zipper and underwire channeling. I'm going to insert underwires. This is an optional step that can make a significant difference in the final look of your bustier. When underwires are added, they help to create a secure and snug fit, keeping the center front of the bustier in place on your body. Here's the difference between the cups with an underwire on the left and without an underwire on the right. To find out which underwire you need, refer to the underwire chart and a printable chart included in this pattern. A deviation of 2 cm in length is permissible, provided that the underwire conforms to the shape outlined in the printable chart. You will find the pattern in the description below this video. I love that you don't have to assemble much. The skirt consists of 4 sheets of the front and the back, and the bustier part isn't necessary to assemble at all, just cut straight from the sheets. Press your fabric. You will be able to cut more accurately if you have smooth fabric. To interface the bodice pieces more effectively, I prefer cutting the pieces from a pre-interfaced fabric. I measure how much fabric is needed for the bodice pieces and press the fusible interfacing on this section from the both sides. Cut the bodice pieces from the interface section and the skirt pieces from the rest of the fabric. It's crucial to make note of the grain line. Continue preparing the pieces. Press on the stabilizing stay tape or a non-stretch strip of interfacing along the top edges of each bodice piece to prevent them from stretching. Do the same with the upper cup piece. Also gently transfer the skirt pieces to the pressing board and press on the strip of the interfacing along the skirt center back edges and the bottom hems. Transfer all the notches. Cut the same pieces from the lining. I recommend adding 5 mm to the hips on the side edges to make sure the lining has enough ease. Also note that the lining skirt is shorter than the main fabric skirt and is equal to the main fabric skirt without the hem seam allowance, so I simply trim off 3 cm from the hem. When all the pieces are cut and prepared properly, let's assemble the bodice of the main fabric and the lining at once. Stitch the bodice center front and the side front pieces right sides together the same way stitch the lining pieces. Let's sew the cups at once, so match the notches, stitch the lower cup center and the side pieces right sides together for the main fabric as well as for the lining. Not to swap the pieces, the pattern pieces are always next to me while stitching. Place the front and the back right sides together and sew the side seams of the main bodice and the bodice of the lining. Finish the seam allowances on the main bodice and the lower cup with an overlocker or a zigzag stitch. Skip this step if your fabric doesn't fray so much, because the bodice will be covered by a lining. If your fabric is stiff and not fraying, you can clip the seam allowance every 1 cm, making sure not to cut the seam. If you are going to sew in some boning, this is the right time to do it. Refer to this video to know how, but I'm keeping this step for this dress. Top stitch along the seams 5 mm away from the seams, working from the right side. Make sure the front seam allowances are towards the center front, the side seam allowances toward the back, and the back seam allowances toward the center back. Pull the pieces in the opposite directions while stitching, or pre-press if you are lacking skills. Top stitch the cups the same way. Make sure the seam allowances are towards the center piece. Finish the top edges and the center back edges of the bodice with an overlocker stitch, working from the right side. Skip the step if your fabric doesn't fray. Press the bodice and the lower cup over a round pressing hem with steam, or find something soft and round to press, for example, another foam cup. Continue assembling the cups by stitching the upper cup pieces and the lower cup pieces right sides together, matching the notch with the seam on the lower cup. Finish the seam allowances on the cup with an overlocker, or clip the seam allowance every 1 cm if your fabric is stiff. The overlocker stitch line gives a little more structure to the cup here. Top stitch the cups 5 mm away from the seam, working from the right side. Make sure the seam allowance is towards the upper piece. Press the cups over a round pressing hem with steam for a flawless result. I highly recommend buying or making this pressing form. Leave the cups on the pressing hem until they are fully dry. Go back to the lining part and press the seam close, making sure the front seam allowances are towards the center front, the side seam allowances toward the back, and the back seam allowances toward the center back. Assemble the cup pieces the same way as the main fabric, excluding the edge finishing and top stitching. Pin and sew the skirt front and back darts. Press the darts towards the center of the pieces. Finish the skirt edges with an overlocker, except the top edges with sewn darts. To sew the back center seam on the skirt, first measure your actual zipper length. Starting 1.3 cm away from the top edge of the bodice, extract the waist seam allowances and mark a notch where the back center seam should start depending on your zipper length, plus 1.5 or 2 cm toward the waist from the zipper stop. Sew the center back seam until that marking. I'm showing closer where that marking should be drawn, 1 cm from the edge and 2 cm above the zipper stop. Sew the skirt side seams. Press the seams on the skirt open. Do it in sections above and under the hip line on the side seams. For the lining skirt, first finish the center back edges with an overlocker. Then sew the back center seam, leaving the section for the zipper the same as on the main skirt. Sew the side seams. Press the center back seam open and the side seams towards the back. I prefer to finish the skirt hem right now. If you are not sure about the skirt length yet, skip this step for now and finish the hem later. Fold the main skirt hem over 3 cm toward the wrong side and press. Stitch 2.5 cm away from the edge and press. For the lining, fold the hem over about 1 cm towards the wrong side and press. Fold the hem of the lining skirt over 1 cm one more time, and stitch as close as possible to the pre-folded edge. Press this hem too. Checking if the line of skirt is the right length. Yes, perfect. So it's time to assemble the parts into a whole dress. Attach the bodice to the skirt right sides together, matching the skirt darts with the seams on the bodice. Note that the side seams shouldn't be matched. Why have I made it so? To create a bustier, it's recommended to place a side seam next to a top, particularly when incorporating bones. Also, the skirt side seam should split the skirt into two sections, with the front part being slightly wider than the back. Finish the seam allowance with an overlocker working from the bodice. Press the seam allowance toward the skirt. For the lining, I prefer making it in a different manner. To avoid sewing darts, I make folds from the dart notches instead. Begin by matching the notches at the end of each dart line. You can use a pin here to match them together as you would sew a dart. Then, fold the fabric towards the center of the piece and secure this direction with pins. Keep the pins in place until attaching the bodice to the skirt. Attach the lining bodice to the lining skirt right sides together, matching the skirt folds with the seams on the bodice. Work from the skirt part to control the folds and their direction. Finish the seam allowance with an overlocker working from the bodice. Press the seam towards the skirt and the folds. Locate an approximate point for each dart and press the false so that it ends at that point. This creates an unstitched dart that can open up and provide necessary wearing ease to the hips. Let's install the zipper. I'm showing my method, but you can sew it any way you prefer. Starting 1.3 cm from the top edge, place the closed zipper right side down along the inside of the seam edge. The zipper bottom stop should be below where the stitch back seam starts, leaving 1.5 or 2 cm zipper tail. Make additional basting stitches along the zipper tape, 5 mm away from the edge. Pin the zipper tail matching its center with the back seam and stitch the second side of the zipper tape down. It allows me to check if the waist seam and the top edge matches. If everything is perfect, I can stitch next to this. Open the zipper and place the zipper slider below where the back seam starts, under the zipper tail. Switch your machine's presser foot to an invisible zipper foot. Starting at the top, stitch down one side of the zipper tape, close to the teeth, stopping at the point where the center back seam starts. Repeat for the second side. Pull the zipper slider through the remaining small hole between the zipper and the back seam and close the zipper. Press the zipper lightly. Perfect. Stitch the zipper tape tail to the back seam allowances only. The zipper is truly invisible, isn't it? Finish the ends of all 4 ribbon straps, measuring 55 cm. If you prefer larger bows, you can make longer straps. These straps should be attached to the dress at the slight angle, so cut off a small corner of the ribbon, approximately 5 mm. Repeat with all 4 straps at once. Attach the straps to the right side of the back next to the seams. The straps should be attached at a slight angle towards the sides in a finished way. Attach the lining to the main dress. Pin the lining down to the top edge along with the bodice, right sides together, excluding the curved underbust edges, matching all the seams on the back. Turn the dress to the right side and understitch the seam along the lining. Turn out the dress to the right side completely. Press the top so that the lining isn't visible from the outside. I love how neatly it looks. Make stitch lines along the curved underbust edges 5 mm away from the edges, attaching the lining to the bodice at these sections. You can trim the excess of the seam allowance if there is any. This is how it should look. To attach the lining to the zipper, first open the zipper. Then, turn the zipper area inside out and flip the lining over from the top. Use a zipper foot or position the needle as close to the zipper teeth as possible. Sew down the lining along the zipper teeth, leaving approximately 1 cm before the back seam. Repeat this process for the second side of the zipper. The zipper slider should be at the same level with the edges, creating one line. Turn the skirt inside out between the lining and the main fabric layers. Stitch the lining's waist seam allowance to the main dress waist seam allowance, as close as possible to the zipper. Let's sew in the cups. Attach the straps to the right side of the main cup next to the side. The strap should be attached at a slight angle towards the center in a finished way. Straps should be placed 1 or 6 cm from the upper cup side depending on your size, or you can position them as you like. Sew the main cup and the lining cup right sides together along the top edges, sandwiching the strap. Understitch the seam along the lining to secure it in place and prevent it from rolling towards the outside. Fold the lining cups toward the wrong side of the main cups and press the top section of the cups. Pin the lining down so that's perfectly aligned with the main cup. You will notice that the lining is slightly bigger than the main cup at the bottom. To fix this, carefully cut off the 2 or 3 mm excess fabric from the bottom of the lining in the center section of the cup. Stitch 5 mm along the bottom of the cup to attach the lining completely. Press the lower cup over around pressing hem with steam and leave the cup on the pressing form until it's completely dry. You see, it gives a perfect shape to the cup. Match the cup seam and the seam on the front using a pin and attach the cup to the curved underbust section of the bodice. Make sure the top edge of the bodice and the cup are perfectly aligned. I stitch from the cup side. The edge should be one nice whole line. It takes a little practice to match the edges, but it's worth it. Flip the curved underbust seam allowance only, not the cup, each 1 cm. Be careful not to cut through the stitch line. Stop 2 or 3 mm before it. Repeat with the second side. Stitch the underwire channeling to the curved seam allowances, covering the cup attaching seam. Stitch close to the channeling edge, leaving 1 cm ends. Usually there's a stitch on the channeling. If it's so, stitch exactly in this stitch. There are options to finish the underbust cup seam. It could be finished just with an overlocker or a zigzag stitch, or covered with another material like underwire channeling, bias binding, soft elastic. Press the seam allowance toward the bodice, working from the right side. Trim the cup seam allowance a little bit. Top stitch the underbust curve from the right side along the bottom edge of the underwire channeling. You have two options for the channeling now. You can either leave it as it is for decorative purposes or insert underwires. If you choose to insert underwires, refer to the underwire chart to determine the appropriate size for your bodice. Make tiny dent zigzag stitches on the ends of the channeling, working from the wrong side, and trim the ends as close as possible to the zigzag stitches. Make sure to press everything nicely and get ready to rock your fabulous new Rose Cafe Bustier dress. Don't forget to snap a photo of your stunning creation and share it on Instagram with the hashtag Rose Cafe Bustier dress. Thank you so much for tuning in and happy sewing!